Superman. I can't stop thinking about Superman. The only thing that's been going through my head the last 24 hours is Superman, Superman, Superman. I haven't had a movie trailer make me feel this way in so long. This is all I could have ever wanted and more. If I thought that teaser was good last year, then oh my God, this shattered even my highest expectations for the film. Thank you, James Gunn, for finally bringing us a hopeful Superman back on the big screen after all these years. And the fact that we're going to be seeing him in a fully developed DC universe with his entire supporting cast finally here, not being shot in the head in a war zone, is the greatest thing ever to me. I could seriously cry right now. I have waited my entire life for this moment. I love Superman as a character so much, and I am so beyond happy to finally see him being done correctly like this. I don't even know where to start talking about this trailer because my mind is just racing with thoughts. There's so much I want to discuss about how this is the perfect Superman characterization that I have longed for, or all these interesting elements they're adding in from the expanded universe, or the way the movie is shot. It's all just so perfectly done for me specifically, it feels like. Alright, if I want to lock in on something, I think my favorite thing about this trailer is the way it's contextualized through Clark and Lois's interview. I think that's a really fun framing device for the trailer, as we get to see them have this argument over whether Superman is doing the right thing or not, and how to go about doing that, interspliced with all these clips of his actions and how the world is reacting to him. It really goes a long way as painting Superman as the main character of this universe, which is exactly what you want to do. But more importantly, it puts Lois and Clark's relationship front and center, which is something that I think you need to do if you want to do his character correctly. And James Gunn seems to have a great understanding of that, as he's making sure that we see just how great David and Rachel are together, because my God, their chemistry is undeniable. It's such a small thing, but hearing David lean forward and say Miss Lane like that gave me enough adrenaline to run a full sprint marathon. From the expression on his face to the way he delivers the line, there's so much flirtatious energy in there that you just can't fake. I know Gunn teased a while ago that Superman is going to have a 12-minute long interview segment between Clark and Lois, and I think that's what we're seeing here, which I think is the best possible way to start the movie and just give us a greater understanding of who these two characters are, why they love each other, and how they operate in this larger setting of the DC universe. I especially love that Lois is being a real hard-ass to Clark in the interview and isn't taking it easy on him. She's the best journalist at the planet for a reason. She will ask those hard-hitting questions and get the answers she wants to hear. Even if the person she's interviewing is her boyfriend, she's gonna do her job and ask the questions that people want to hear the answers to. She has a great sense of journalistic integrity, and as someone who studied journalism in college, I very much so appreciate that. But I also really like seeing the realistic point of view Lois comes from, as it balances out Clark's hopefulness in a really interesting way that further solidifies their dynamic and what makes them work as characters. While I absolutely adore a hopeful Superman, he needs to have a Lois Lane by his side to ground him in reality. Clark's wholesome ideas for helping out the world can have drastic ramifications, and Lois is there to remind him of that and help keep him based in reality. He's the dreamer of the two, while she's the realist, and I really like that this movie is going to be asking questions about Superman's hopeful ideals and challenging them. Doing that through an interview with his own significant other, no less, goes a long way in showing just how confident in these beliefs Superman is, which is, I think, a very fundamental part of his character. For some reason, people seem to think that Superman is too naive to work in 2025, despite his character being practically timeless. So I think that this movie challenging those beliefs and showing why they persist, and how Superman is an enduring icon, by literally showing his hope persevere through it all, no matter how many different ramifications there are, he continues to do the right thing, is the most inspirational messaging possible, and exactly the kind of storytelling I want to see in my Superman movies. And not to take a hard pivot into theorizing, but I do think it could be very interesting if we see the ramifications his involvement in other countries has, where he goes to stop this war in Boravia, and his involvement inspires the new villain they're introducing in this film, the Hammer of Boravia. And I wonder if he's going there and inadvertently creating this new monster who then comes back to Metropolis to try and kill him. And he's probably being completely funded by Lex Luthor, because that looks an awful lot like the war suit design. But I think the potential for commentary on that hopefulness, by asking the tough questions and putting Superman in very difficult scenarios like that, is the most interesting thing you could do with the character at this point. If there was a gun to my head and I was forced to pick just one, my absolute favorite moment of this trailer is when Clark says,
"I wasn't representing anybody except for me and doing good."
That right there is exactly what Superman should embody, and it put the biggest smile on my face when I heard him say that. I absolutely love hearing Clark be so passionate about doing the right thing. This is the core fundamental belief of the character, and he's willing to die over it. That altruistic mindset of his and his relentless optimism, forever fueling him no matter what the world says. He's not fighting for a country or some ulterior motive. He's just helping people out because it's the right thing to do. It's the hopeful version of Superman that I have been dying to see, but I especially love that they modernize it in a way where they allow him to have opinions on how unfair it is that the world doesn't want him to be hopeful. How the Secretary of State is trying to punish him because he dared to do the right thing. He went out of his way to stop a war, saving countless innocent lives from dying, and he doesn't even want to thank you. He just wants to be able to keep doing this again and again because he has the ability to. But the current state of the DC universe is so bleak and hopeless that they're trying to investigate him and they're arresting him for doing these things. Letting Clark have a very vocal opinion on all that as he's telling it to Lois on the record is perhaps my favorite thing that James Gunn is adding to the live-action Superman mythos, evolving those hopeful ideals into a three-dimensional character where he's much more of this rebellious spirit, not letting the world tell him no for a second. Even when Lois is questioning his methods, he never once backs down because he knows deep down that he's doing the right thing. He shouldn't have to go talk to the president before going to a different country to stop other people from dying in a war. And he's able to express that opinion with so much personality, but it's especially that first part that speaks to me where he says that he wasn't representing anybody except for himself. The phrase truth, justice, and the American way is incredibly outdated because Superman is not an American superhero. He is a global superhero trying to make the world a better place. He shouldn't ever be held to the standards of another country. And James Gunn seems to understand that, as this Superman is the perfect embodiment of a better tomorrow. This is also the most we've gotten to see of David's performance as Superman, and I was giving him a standing ovation alone in my room watching this trailer. The reason this hopeful take on Superman is able to work so well is because he plays the character with so much warmth and personality. I love how confident and charming he is when he speaks, never doubting himself for a single second, all while going out of his way to feel effortlessly approachable, never talking down to anybody, more so just talking to them and trying to be as personable as possible. He has such an inspiring energy to him, and the hopeful twinkle in your eye you want to see in your Superman actor. And I know that everybody, including myself, has said this probably an annoying amount of times, but I can't get over just how much he looks like Superman. It's like you ripped the character from the pages and brought him to life. He brings so much personality to the role in just these small snippets of dialogue that we get to hear from him. By the time that movie ends, I would not be shocked at all if he's the best actor to have ever portrayed Superman. There's just something about him that I feel like we haven't seen in a Superman actor before. It might just be the fact that we're seeing a much more vulnerable take on Superman as well, but I just think it works so well to make this character feel even more relatable. I promised to myself before recording this video that I would only take one shot at the Cavill films, so this is it right here, but I'm so glad that we are moving away from that indestructible god aspect of Superman where he's completely untouchable and unfazed to anything that isn't kryptonite. Seeing a version of Superman who can take a punch but still has to feel the ramifications of that as he's being hit across the city and landing in a crater, only to get up and keep fighting, it makes him feel so human in a way that I think you need for your Superman. I think this scene here shows it best when Superman is letting a guy help him up because he needs that motivation. Obviously Clark could get up himself, he's the Man of Steel for a reason, but having someone there to help him is the symbolism of it all, as it goes a long way. Clark inspires Metropolis just as much as Metropolis inspires him, and showing that these citizens believe in him gives him the energy he needs to keep fighting, and I think there is nothing more motivational than that. I get so fired up talking about it because I love seeing Superman be this hopeful. If you were playing a drinking game and taking a shot every time I said hope in this video, you'd already have alcohol poisoning, but I can't stress enough just how happy it makes me to see a version of Superman who is inspiring the people around him to be better. He's a character that brings the best out of all of us, and that warms my heart. And the fact that the trailer is bookended with another conversation between Clark and Pa Kent just shows me that Gunn absolutely gets it. Superman going home when he's overwhelmed and getting a much-needed pep talk from his parents is peak characterization. Farm boy dork Superman is finally back home, and I could not be happier about that. His parents shaped him into the person he is today and gave him that unshakable moral compass, so when he starts to doubt himself and wonder if he's doing the right thing, having him go home to get that wake-up call from Pa Kent that he's doing the right thing would hit like a truck in that theater. I'm gonna be bawling my eyes out seeing them talk about the world like that. I adore the fact that Superman never lost touch of his roots, and that even with him becoming the most popular person on the planet, he still chooses to go back home to Smallville because he was raised right and has these earnest values. It's honestly really impressive to me how much these trailers are able to balance the four distinct parts of Superman's life, from him actually being Superman, being Clark Kent, his work at the Daily Planet, and then his life back at Smallville. It's very clear that this movie is going to be focusing on all four corners of his universe and giving them equal time, which is something that I think we haven't seen from a Superman adaptation in a long time. And it's reasons like that why I have faith in Gunn's vision, because he seemingly knows exactly what this character should be and isn't afraid to bring that to the big screen. No matter how many people might say it's corny, he understands that Superman was raised by two farmers. He was born on the cob. That is inherently who this character is, and isn't afraid to do things like Ma Kent cleaning his boots for him. I love that she's that involved with him being Superman, and if I can just have one request in this movie, I really hope that she's the person to suggest putting the trunks on the costume. I completely understand if they want the suit to be Kryptonian, that way you don't have to explain why it doesn't get ripped all the time with human materials, but having Ma Kent be the one to suggest putting on the trunks not only gives it that personable touch, but it just goes the extra mile in making Superman feel more human and approachable as someone who's literally wearing underwear on the outside of his pants because he knows it makes him look silly and it's very disarming, so people can trust him because he's not taking himself too seriously. So please, James Gunn, do whatever you have to do to get that in the movie, because that is exactly what I need to see here. But what really makes the character of Superman work is having that foil there to challenge him. And I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but it makes me so happy to see Lex Luthor as the villain of this film and Nicholas Hoult doing some incredible work here. We are about to see this man hate harder than anyone has ever hated someone in the history of hating somebody. Look at the rage on his face in this shot. He is literally shaking in anger. That right there is the level of pettiness I want to see from my Lex Luthor. I want him brought to tears in anger. I can already tell from that alone that we're about to see this iconic rivalry done right, and we've only heard a few lines from Holt's Luthor so far in the marketing, but I think this trailer gives us two very interesting ones that expose the themes of this movie. The first is when he says that Superman has somehow become the focal point of the entire world's conversation. I think that's a very important line because I feel like a huge aspect of this film is going to be Superman, for lack of a better term, coming out to the world and making his presence known, and that's going to shake things up because in this world of bleak corporate superheroes, this outsider comes in dressed in bright, flashy colors, and all the attention would obviously shift over to him. And of course, Lex Luthor, being the attention whore that he is, would take some great problem with that. That man is so petty that he can't stand just the idea of Superman being the center of attention more than him, and just reinforces how impactful Superman's presence is on the globe as a whole, as he's able to inspire real change that undermines everything Lex has worked for. And I think it's going to strike some genuine fear in Lex, because that second line seems to imply a lot about what his character is going to be going through in this film when he says he's not a man, he's an it. Lex is obviously afraid of change. He doesn't like the way people are turning their backs on him and praising Superman instead. And I think that's going to inspire this new hatred of metahumans in him, as he wants to paint them as subhuman. And the fact that he's this outside alien is going to annoy Lex to no end, where he's going to be running this hate campaign against metahumans as a whole. It's why we see Superman locked up in what seems to be this pocket dimension prison alongside Metamorpho, because I think that Lex is going to be inspiring this movement against metahumans with a lot of xenophobic undertones, but it's important to acknowledge that because Superman was created as a reflection of the immigrant experience. It is a completely undeniable part of his character. He's literally a foreigner who arrives in the country illegally, seeking refuge. You can't really get more on the nose than that, and in today's hellscape of a political climate, that kind of messaging is going to go a long way in fighting back against oppressive regimes that are trying to hurt people for being different. The fact that Clark is this alien who's more human than all of us is vital to his characterization, and I am so glad that this movie seems to be using Lex to explore that idea and show what makes him special. And while I'm briefly talking about characters like Metamorpho, who I think is going to be the heart of this movie as someone who Superman can directly relate to as a metahuman that the world hates for being different, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the new looks at the Justice League we got in this film. And while I still don't love their suits besides Mr. Terrific's, which is genuinely perfect, their powers look incredible. Whether it be Mr. Terrific's T-Spears on point flying around all over the place, creating this really unique action that we haven't seen before in the genre, or Green Lantern finally using constructs as he swats away all those army people, or Hawkgirl operating as this majestic wrecking ball. I think they all have a really unique style of combat that I'm excited to see more of in the film itself, and I'm especially interested to see how the Justice League challenge Clark's ideals, as they're coming from a corporatized world of superheroing, and Clark can inspire them to become more independent and hopefully get new costumes. But being able to see the actual change he has in real time would go a long way in selling the importance of this character. So I'm very hopeful that they do that. Doo-doo. Am I 12? What's wrong with me? We also finally got to see the engineer in action in this trailer, and I absolutely love the way they're doing her character. Like many of you, I only heard of the Authority for the first time when James Gunn announced them, so my only reference for accuracy is in random panels I've seen online, but I understand this is a very different take on what she looks like in the comics. But here's the thing. From my very ignorant point of view, I think it might be an upgrade. The fluidity of her abilities as we see them form in this liquid way looks so cool, and I love the jagged texture of it all. It makes her feel a lot more threatening and dangerous, and a lot less like a mechanical Silver Surfer. But so help me God, if she even lays a hand on Crypto, I need her head on a spike, okay? Nobody's allowed to hurt Crypto. If anyone even hurts that dog in this movie, I'm gonna kill James Gunn. For legal reasons, that's a joke, but also James, just know, I'm watching you, buddy. Crypto is the best boy ever, and I need him to be protected at all costs. And say what you will about how the movie looks, I personally really like the color grading. Having the rest of the world be a little bit more desaturated forces Superman to stand out as this bright, colorful beacon of optimism, and I think is some great visual storytelling, showing us that he doesn't fit into this world and that he sticks out like a sore thumb. And I think it would be so cool if over the course of the movie, as we see Clark affect the world more and more, the color grading changes to reflect that as that blue filter fades away and we get more warmth in the shot composition. And I will absolutely admit that the visual style isn't perfect. Some shots leave more to be desired, but for me, where it makes up for that is in the camera work, because James Gunn is absolutely cooking with his direction. There is so much fun and dynamic movement with the camera, almost acting as a character in it of itself as we see it reacting to what's on screen, along with this kinetic sense of energy in the fight scenes. I especially love the way it has to catch up to Superman when it takes off, just really selling how fast he is. There is so much thought put into every shot of the movie, and you can just tell that this is clearly a passion project for James Gunn. Every frame of the film is composed with so much love and care, motivated entirely by doing this character justice in the most visually satisfying way, and I think he absolutely nails that. I could honestly talk about this trailer for hours and hours and hours and never get bored, but clearly the theme of this video has been hope. There's been a counter running in the corner the entire time if you somehow haven't noticed, because this film makes me feel alive in a way that few other comic book movies do. As I've spent the last few years getting more and more into Superman as a character, this feels like the culmination of that in a way, as now one of my favorite filmmakers, James Gunn, is directing the character with an incredibly inspired vision, and one that's going to kickstart the next decade of storytelling in the DC universe. This movie is a long time coming in so many ways, and after watching this trailer upwards of 20 times earlier today, I can't help but feel so optimistic for the future. This really does feel like the start of something special and a true event, as one of the most iconic characters in general is finally returning to the big screen, and this time he's not going to be shot from the shoulders down, or be given a CGI mustache. Okay, sorry, I lied, there's 2 shots in this video, but you get my point. We're finally getting this return to form for Superman, and it has instilled me with so much hope that I'm just incredibly happy right now. I know this was less of a trailer breakdown than my videos usually are, but the themes of this movie and storytelling are so inspired that I couldn't help but yap about them for most of the video. So thank you for indulging me in hearing all the insane things I had to say about this trailer. But what did you think about the first official trailer for Superman? I would genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, you may as well give the video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And you know what? I'm feeling so optimistic right now that I'm not even gonna threaten you like usual at the end of the video. I just hope you do subscribe, because there will be consequences otherwise.